Hi guys, in this video, I'm going to talk about how to prepare for CLAT in 2 months. As you know, you have about 10 weeks left for CLAT 2018 and we'll be addressing how to go about your preparation in the last few days. And let's approach this subject by subject and I'll give you a few tips to guide you through your preparation. Let's start with legal aptitude. So if you haven't started your legal aptitude prep so far, it's okay because we have a large range of videos across legal aptitude subjects like constitutional law, torts, contracts, and so on. They're all there on our channel. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel for such updates and also go back and watch all of our videos in case you haven't gained mastery over legal concepts. That's one. So what you have to do is you have to watch and learn the legal principles from the videos. But as you know, that is not enough. What you need is that you need a lot of practice so that you know how exactly those concepts are tested in the exam. The difficult questions in legal aptitude, generally they have, very short principles, one word or one phrase principles in which you need to know the definition of the legal term before you can proceed to answer the question meaningfully. And then there are long-winded questions which are equally tricky because they're very long and very difficult to understand before you can understand and eliminate the options. And then there are those where the options are very tricky because they all look similar and you're not very sure as to, which option is correct. So in all of these cases, the legal aptitude section poses difficulties for CLAT aspirants. And so I request you to practice as much as you can. And for all of these problems, I think the solution is that you have to give as many mocks as you can. Now, of course, many of you, as I know, are already enrolled in many coaching centers and then mocks. So you're already giving your All India mocks. In case you aren't already enrolled, I really request you to enroll yourself in maybe 2 or 3 paid programs if you can. But even if you can't pay such money and if you're short on resources, that's completely fine because we have our free All India mocks for CLAT 2018. They're all free. We have about 40 exams for this year. You just have to go to talentsprint.com/CLAT. We've partnered with Talent Sprint, which is an educational company, and Law School 101 has set up all of these mocks for you. Now, in case you're somebody who's already signed up for these mocks, just sign in to clat.talentsprint.com and log in with your username and password and start giving these exams. We have All India exams every week and most of them are live mocks where you give it on Saturday and Sunday. You have a comprehensive report along with your All India rank sent to you on Monday. So please do that. Let's approach general knowledge now. So the last few weeks are the most important time in your prep if you ask me, and you definitely need to focus on general knowledge at this time. Especially you have to focus on current affairs in these last few months because it CLAT typically asks you questions in the last few months of current affairs. So please keep that in mind. And I'm sure you're already reading your newspaper every day. Please continue to do that. It's very, very important. And of course, as you know, it's not just enough that you read and glance through the pages in the newspaper. You need to make notes. You need to highlight the important points. You need to have a mechanism to remind yourself of what you've studied, not only today, at the end of the day, but also tomorrow and day after and so on. So please figure out what kind of note-taking system helps you there. Just to remind you, our All India Mocks portal, the one I just highlighted here, it has a very comprehensive current affairs module. It includes daily, weekly and monthly handouts. So in case you haven't bought any monthly magazines or if you're not subscribed to any magazines, that's not an issue at all. We have all of those supplements available to you for free on that particular website. Please go through all of that. In fact, we also have quizzes every day and week mostly. So go attempt all of those quizzes also. Those are the best means for revising current affairs if you ask me. And not only this, I'm very pleased to inform you that we also have a very comprehensive yearbook for current affairs for CLAT coming up for you in the month of April. So stay active on our platform and stay updated. Keep a track of whatever you've done so far for general knowledge and continue doing that. Now, before the yearbook comes on, I really request you not to wait for it. Of course, the yearbook is going to be very lengthy and it is going to be quite comprehensive. So it is not very wise to wait for it and keep your current affairs prep on hold for that. What you should be doing is continue your prep, as it shouldn't be affected by anything. Just use the yearbook for your revision purposes. It will come in April so as to encompass all the events in April also. Now let's look at English. Now, of course, there are no shortcuts to learning a language. The only answer to English or learning any new language is consistency. Fortunately, the exam, which is either CLAT or ALET or whatever you consider in the law entrance exams, they're generally limited in their scope of testing you in English. Right, so there's only certain kinds of questions that do come. There's certain kinds of grammar questions, there's reading comprehension, para jumbles and so on. So my sincere suggestion to you, if you ask me, is you should read the newspaper every day, but especially you should look at reading the Hindu every day, because that newspaper is amazing for learners of the English language. What you should focus on for the purpose of mastering your command over English is that you should be reading the editorials every day. They're in the center spread of the newspaper. Of course, this helps you in learning current affairs also. It helps you keep track of daily important news. But overall, it helps you gain a command over language, because when you keep reading great sources such as Hindu, which is the standard for the learners of English language, you learn the language automatically when you read that kind of newspaper every day, right? And of course, it also helps you develop reading speed. That is the most important for you in a competitive exam like CLAT. And in addition to all of this, what you should also do is you should write down new words every day so as to improve your vocabulary also. So by reading a newspaper such as Hindu, you're not only developing your reading speed and vocabulary, but also developing your holistic learning of the English language. Next, let's look at logical reasoning. You need to understand that there are two distinct components of the logical reasoning section, although the questions aren't always divided as such. There's one component called as analytical reasoning, in which some of the most important topics are blood relations, analogy, group sequences, series, direction, sense, and so on. So when you're answering such questions, remember that is analytical component of the subject. But then there's another important subject, the topics that fall under the heading critical reasoning. Now, critical reasoning has questions from the following topics. You have statement assertions, strong and weak arguments, statement conclusions, statement assumptions, syllogisms, and so on. So if you're answering questions from these topics, remember that is the critical reasoning aspect of logical reasoning. Remember that these both require slightly different approaches, because analytical reasoning, while it doesn't really require or presuppose a command over English language, critical reasoning does. So the topics that I just outlined, which are blood relations, analogy, group sequences, series, direction, sense, test, statements and assertions, strong and weak arguments, statement conclusions, statement assumptions, syllogisms. These are some of the most important topics you need to be very comfortable with when you're studying for CLAT. Your mastery over these areas will enable you to save a lot of time in the exam, because these are the most frequently tested chapters in the logical reasoning section year after year. Remember that every second you save on the exam is important. So if you need practice in any of these topics, and if you think you're not very strong at any of these topics, now is the time. Please use the next few weeks very wisely. Okay, let's look at math now. So some of the students are asking me, can we just leave this section? It's only 20 marks. So my unequivocal advice to all of you is, do not leave this section. Just imagine, if you leave 20 marks in the exam, of course you cannot expect an extraordinary rank. Every mark changes your rank dramatically, and 20 marks is definitely going to alter your rank even more dramatically, right? So use the next few weeks to lose your fear of math, if you have any fear in the first place. Remember that it's only elementary math that is tested in CLAT. It's not calculus, it's not trigonometry, it's nothing too complex. What you need in this exam is speed. So my request to you is practice at least 30 math problems a day in order to get comfortable. If you get any questions wrong, go back and practice them over and over again. Now, what is most important to you right now is that you need to know where you're going wrong and analyzing places where you're actually making mistakes. So you need to approach your mocks strategically. Once you get an analysis of your mocks, you need to go back to your math section and look at the mistakes you've made and also the questions that you've guessed. So if you give, for example, if you give our mocks, you are provided with a detailed breakdown of your scores after every test. So you can use such a report to help yourself understand where you're going wrong and the topics that you're frequently getting wrong. Right? So that is very important to do. It's not just practice, but also looking at where exactly you need practice. Now, there are certain sections you might be really good at. Just drop them right now. Don't practice them too much. Practice those areas that you're not very good at this point of time. So use this time to gain mastery over your weak areas in the last few weeks. So coming to general advice, the last 2 months are the most crucial for the exam. I know many students who started studying seriously from now, although they hadn't prepared extensively before, and they still managed to crack the exam, and they are either my batchmates in Nalsar or my juniors at Nalsar. So don't worry, don't lose hope. It's okay, just give your best from now. Coming to board exams, if you're giving board exams, remember that board exams of course are important, but please don't forget CLAT completely because it ends up being a painful mistake most of the time. Just imagine if you completely shut down your brain from doing CLAT, it's going to be very hard to start CLAT prep again in April from scratch. So please don't make that mistake. I'm not saying you should continue preparing for CLAT extensively. All I'm saying is set aside at least a couple of hours every day to revise for the CLAT. Don't start anything new. Just look at something that you've already done. Just revise, say, current affairs, legal terms and maxims, and stuff like that. You don't have to do anything difficult or, perturb yourself too much before the boards. Just do stuff you've already done so that by the time you come to April, it's a very painless transition. Oftentimes, it ends up being a mistake that forces people to drop a year. So don't commit such a mistake, right? Now, if you're a person who's dropped a year, just remember that you have a huge advantage compared to other people. You're basically free without any distractions until May. So use your time wisely. Remember that many of my batchmates in Nalsar dropped a year for their prep and they cracked the exam in their second attempt very smoothly. And all of them say that the last few months were the most important in their prep. So lastly, I just wanted to tell you that I hope you make us all at Law School 101 proud in May. Remember, to succeed in your mission, you must have single-minded devotion towards your goal. So best of luck and take care.